What happens when a woman starts feeling she can anticipate your words and actions and knows exactly how to pull you in or push you away? When she reaches that point, the mystery is gone. She no longer feels tension around you, only certainty. And certainty kills desire. Machiavelli would tell you, when someone believes they've mastered your patterns, they stop respecting your power. Most men, when they feel this shift, try to fight it the wrong way. They overcompensate. They talk more. They try harder to please, hoping to win back the spark. But that only confirms her control. The Machiavellian man does something else entirely. He breaks the pattern she thinks she owns, subtly, surgically. And in doing so, he resets the entire dynamic. She can no longer predict him. She can no longer pull him in on command. And that uncertainty brings back what comfort destroyed, her craving. In this video, I'll give you 6 precise moves to perform this break with absolute control. Not to punish her, not to make her jealous, but to shift the ground under her feet until she feels her grip on you loosen and her desire tighten. Let's begin. Here's the first move, and it's what makes her lose her balance without you ever raising your voice. The break is not a slammed door. It's not a cold shoulder. It's a subtle shift in gravity, a change she feels in her body before she understands it in her mind. She sends a playful text, and you answer with warmth, but not availability. She leans in during a conversation, and you hold her eyes, but let the silence stretch just a heartbeat too long. At first, it's invisible. Then, it's undeniable. She starts noticing she's leaning toward you more often. Her laughter feels more like a reach than a release. And when your hand brushes hers, she feels a faint, aching gap that wasn't there before. In dating, you stop confirming plans immediately. Your messages become shorter, yet somehow more charged. She begins to wonder if she's the only one in your orbit, or just the one you've chosen to let close, for now. In a relationship, you stop filling every quiet moment with conversation. You let your attention drift elsewhere, a book, a thought, the horizon outside the window. Not because you're bored, because you're reminding her that your mind is not a space she owns. Machiavelli would have said, "Power grows when your meaning is half shown, half hidden." Here's how to use this. Pull back just enough to create contrast, not enough to create suspicion. Shorten your sentences, slow your responses. Let her feel in the smallest ways that she no longer knows the exact man she had last week. Here's the second move, and it's the one that pulls her out of comfort and into craving. Every woman walks with a portrait of herself, painted in her own mind. She knows how she appears. She knows the effect she has. She knows the moves that keep men orbiting her. And as long as that portrait stays intact, she believes she's in control. But the Machiavellian break? It doesn't tear that portrait down with blunt force. It slips a crack through the center, so every time she looks at it, something feels off. You don't call her out directly. You make her feel seen in ways that ripple through her. Picture this in dating. You're sitting across from her, a dim bar light painting half her face in gold, the other half in shadow. She's telling a story, polished, rehearsed, all the right gestures. Most men would laugh, validate, lean in too eagerly. You lean back, eyes steady, half a smile. You tell it well, but I think the parts you don't say are more interesting. She laughs, but her voice dips. She looks away for half a second, not to avoid you, but because she suddenly feels exposed in a way she can't name. The air changes. The space between you feels warmer, tighter. Her posture shifts. She adjusts her hair without thinking. Now picture this in a relationship. She's curled up next to you on the couch, scrolling through her phone, showing you memes, light conversation. You're quiet, eyes on her. And when she catches you watching, you don't smile. You simply say, "I wonder what you'd be like if you stopped pretending you're the one in control here." Silence. Her breathing changes. She leans back into you, but not lazily, like she's testing how much she can melt before you notice. You've done nothing explicit. You've said nothing crude. But you've shifted her from performer to participant, from observer to subject. Machiavelli would have told you, to hold influence, you must turn the mirror toward them until they can no longer look away. Here's your next solution. Speak to the edges of her self-image, not the center. Find the hairline cracks, the moments where her confidence is a little too quick, her charm a little too polished, her laughter a little too loud, and touch them lightly. Never accuse, never praise. Just notice. And when you do, keep your voice low, your eyes steady, your body still. Because once she feels you've seen the version of her she hides, she'll start wondering how much more you already know. Here's the third move. And it's where the break stops being subtle and starts living in her body. A woman only feels truly drawn to a man when she senses something rare. That her usual moves, her timing, her rhythm don't work on him the way they work on others. In dating, you've been seeing her a few weeks. She's used to holding the reins, controlling when she leans in, when she goes quiet, when she stirs the air with a glance. But then something shifts. She sends a playful message, and instead of jumping on it, you reply hours later, calmly, warmly, without the urgency she expected. When you meet again, you don't rush to close the space. You let her be the one to drift closer over the course of the night. She finds herself laughing more, touching your arm without realizing it, holding your gaze longer, as if trying to test whether you'll finally give her the response she's used to commanding. You don't. And she feels that tension coil inside her. In a relationship, she's testing you without meaning to. Maybe she's shorter with her replies. Maybe she's keeping her distance at home. But instead of chasing the warmth, you keep your rhythm steady. You still move around the space like a man in his own kingdom. You still read your book in the chair across from her, sipping your drink, glancing at her only when you choose. At first, she acts unaffected. But the longer it goes, the more she starts seeking little openings, brushing past you in the kitchen, sitting closer on the couch, staying longer in the doorway when you pass by. Not because you demanded it, but because the quiet proof that she cannot pull you out of your center has started to stir something low and restless in her. This is the essence of confronting her emotional powerlessness. You don't resist her tests with force. You render them irrelevant. You let her realize without a word that her influence over you has limits, and that those limits are not set by her. Machiavelli would have whispered, "A ruler's strength is measured not by what he gains when praised, but by what he holds when challenged." Here's how to use this. In both dating and relationships, replace instant reaction with deliberate presence. Move as if her changes in mood or pace do not determine yours. Maintain the same calm tone, the same unhurried gestures, the same anchored posture. Let her feel the truth. She is moving around you, not the other way around. Because when a woman sees she cannot move you at will, she starts moving herself closer, not out of habit, but out of desire. Here's the fourth move. And it's when she starts leaning toward you, not because you pulled her in, but because you stopped holding her there. The power dynamic in most romantic exchanges is set early. She decides how much she gives, and he responds. She creates the rhythm, and he follows. But when you perform the break correctly, you flip this without ever announcing it. In dating, she's used to you showing a certain interest. The messages, the suggestions, the way your hand lingers when you walk beside her. Then, you let it fade. Not into coldness, but into a warm distance that feels intentional. You still look at her when she speaks, but your gaze drifts past her sometimes, like something else has your attention. You still laugh, but less readily, as if your mind is occupied with things beyond her. When she texts, she starts waiting longer for your replies than she planned. When she sees you, she catches herself leaning in more, holding your arm a second longer than necessary, searching for a closeness you no longer offer without effort. And that search begins to consume her. In a relationship, it's Friday night. She expects you to suggest plans. You don't. You're dressed well, focused on something else, calm, in no hurry. She asks where you're going. You tell her lightly, but without inviting her along. You don't shut her out. You simply move in a direction that's yours alone. And it's that quiet independence that draws her forward. By the time you return, she's softer, closer, as if trying to reclaim something she can't quite name. The inversion works because it turns her certainty into pursuit. She thought she knew your orbit. Now she feels you've shifted it, and she has to step into your rhythm or risk being left outside of it. Machiavelli would have said, "If you wish to be sought, you must be willing to withdraw what was once freely given." Here's how to apply it. Choose one or two forms of attention she's accustomed to and reduce them strategically. Not to punish, not to provoke, to create a space she feels drawn to fill. Because once she starts reaching toward you for what she thought was guaranteed, she's no longer managing the connection. She's chasing it. Here's the fifth move, and it's what ensures the break cements your position instead of eroding it. Up to now, you've cracked her self-image, shown her she can't move you at will, and inverted the pursuit. But without this step, she could still reset the rhythm, slip back into old patterns, regain the comfort she had before. Controlling the frame during the break means living in a way that quietly reinforces the truth. She is no longer the center of your world. She is a guest in it. In dating, you've created space. Now you fill it, but not with her. Your time is visibly occupied. When she reaches out, she can feel that she's arriving into your momentum, not pulling you out of a void. Maybe she sees glimpses of your nights out. Not the chaos, but the composure in how you carry yourself around others. Maybe she hears about your new focus, not because you told her directly, but because it comes through in the details you choose to share. When she does get your time, it feels deliberate, not default. And that shift alone makes every moment heavier. In a relationship, your routines remain, but the emotional center shifts. If she withdraws, you don't pause your life waiting for the return. You maintain your standards, your schedule, your rituals. You keep dressing with intention. You keep investing in your body, your space, your presence. She sees it when you cross the room. The posture that hasn't bent, the focus that hasn't blurred. She feels it in the way you touch her, slower, with more weight, like a man who knows the value of what he chooses to reach for. The frame is not just control over the interaction. It's control over the story she's telling herself about you. And in this story, she's no longer the one deciding when you connect. You are. Machiavelli would have told you, never return the terms of the old alliance, for in them lies the weakness they once knew. Here's how to execute. During the break, let your life grow visibly more defined without her input. Share less detail, but let what you do share carry the scent of progression. New environments, new energies, new layers of composure. When she steps back in, she should feel that she's entering a world that didn't wait for her and now moves on your terms. Because once she feels that shift in the story, her role changes, her pace changes, her desire changes. Here's the sixth move, and it's where you make sure the break never resets to the old dynamic. Most men, when she comes back, let relief override everything. They pick up where things left off, as if nothing happened. And in doing so, they erase the very shift that made her return in the first place. A Machiavellian man doesn't make that mistake. He knows that the return is not the end of the break. It's the moment the break becomes permanent. In dating, she starts leaning in again, texting faster, suggesting plans, laughing more openly when you're together. But you don't rush to match her pace. You meet her halfway at best. You keep the same deliberate cadence you had during the distance. When you see her, the connection is warm, but there's a new edge. You're engaged, but not absorbed. She can feel you choosing to be there, and that choice has weight. In a relationship, she begins softening after days or weeks of tension, sitting closer, touching you more often, asking more questions about your day. But you don't instantly give back the level of access she once had. You still keep moments for yourself. You still go to the gym alone. You still make plans that don't revolve around her. And when you do engage deeply, it's intentional. A slow, steady focus that makes her feel the contrast between now and before. She understands, without a single conversation about it, that the version of you she left is gone. Machiavelli would have told you, if you restore the former balance, you restore the former weakness. Here's how to apply it. When she comes back, hold the new frame with the same discipline you did in her absence. Let her feel that closeness is still possible, but only within the boundaries you've set. Keep your world moving, your focus intact, and your energy selective. Because the true power of the break is not in making her return, it's in making her stay aware that she's in your world now, and that access is something she must keep earning. And now we arrive at the truth behind everything you've just learned. This is where it all leads. She came back, but not to the place she left. Everything feels different now. The air between you is slower, heavier, more deliberate. Every touch feels like a choice, not a habit. Before, you matched her pace, her moods, her timing. Now you move like the tide, steady, unshaken, untouched by anything outside yourself. You don't rush to fill silence. You let the silence grow until she's the one who crosses it. She notices it in this way you walk into a room without searching for her eyes, in the quiet weight of your hand when you choose to touch her, in the patience in your gaze, as if the moment belongs to you and she's been allowed to enter it. Her return isn't a win, it's proof. Proof that the ground you stood on was stronger than the one she walked toward. Proof that you built something in her absence that she could feel before she saw it. Machiavelli would tell you, when they move to follow you, their loyalty belongs not to who you were, but to who you became. This is no longer about getting her back. It's about keeping the shape you built in the quiet. The version of you that doesn't bend to get closeness, but makes closeness bend toward you. From now on, you are the man whose world moves at his own pace. The man who doesn't cling, but never needs to let go. The man whose absence leaves a shadow, and whose presence leaves no question. And because you've become that man, she can never see you the same way again. Not as someone she could sway, but as the place she will always come back to. Not because she can, but because she has to. If this opened your eyes and you're serious about becoming the man who's in full control of his life, my book is now available. The Undeniable Man, Built to be Chosen. It's a strategic guide for men who want to attract, lead, and dominate in their love life and beyond. Whether you're single or in a relationship, no fluff, no tricks, just pure, powerful strategy that will set you apart from 99% of men, and that you will actually use every day. The link is in the description. And if this video spoke to you, don't just keep your thoughts in your head. Write a comment, even just a few words. It helps you remember these lessons, and it might help someone else too. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, and share it with someone who, in your eyes, needs it right now. Just trust your instinct. We're all trying to get clearer, more solid inside. So let's build minds that don't break.